emergency. Yes, ma'am. Our roof is completely gone. We're on the bottom floor and we don't know what to do. My roof's caving in. My roof is in. Okay. Oh, my God. Help me, please.
Preparing for the worst.
I begged him not to go, begged him with all my might.
The newscasts tell you that you need to evacuate or you need to get out of the way of a hurricane. You should.
Hoping for the best.
Water started coming through the roof. The place was shaking.
It looks like a battle zone. It's probably one of the worst ones I've seen.
I truly couldn't believe it.
Past storms, serving as reminders to not take any chances this hurricane season.
We didn't think that Sally was going to come our way, and it did.
You never know what's going to happen. I mean, you just never know. I mean, all you can do is pray and hope for the best.
The following is an NBC 15 special presentation. STORMWATCH 2022, sponsored by Top Floor Brokerage.
Hello, I'm NBC 15 Chief Meteorologist Alan Seals. Thanks for joining us. Hurricane season 2022 is officially underway. It's the time of year when some of the world's most violent storms can batter coastal and inland communities, potentially changing them as well as the people who live there forever. Hurricanes are natural, yet they are powerful and lead to destruction. That's why it's important to take them seriously and prepare each year. Your trip to the store to stock up on hurricane supplies will cost a whole lot more than in years past because of inflation, and there's no sign of those price hikes slowing down. That means a storm swirling in the Gulf this season could swipe an extra chunk of change out of your wallet. NBC 15's Kelly Foster explains how you can protect your family and yourself this hurricane season by taking action now.
Everything has skyrocketed. Food, gas, everything. It's something to really worry about.
The COVID-19 crisis put a spotlight on the strain of supply chain, which continues to run thin these days on various items on store shelves.
Understanding that right now, things cost more, so do the best you can to get those resources that you need.
Yeah, I think it's important to stock up little by little so that not everybody comes at once and then people who are truly in need can't get anything.
Hurricane supplies always tend to vanish when a storm enters the Gulf, and this year supplies are forecast to cost a little more.
Certainly, we don't know where the prices of things are going to go, so the further ahead you are, it could save you the money as well.
Any hiccup could cause big headaches. So protect your family from a 2022 hurricane supply disaster by getting your stash of basic necessities now, not later.
Either a cash stash or a gas stash. If they can store it in their garages or somewhere, I think that it's always good just to have a couple cans of gas always ready, just because people are going to be lined up, it's going to be crazy, and you definitely don't want to be left without.
There are already some shortages, so now is the time to stock up on water, non-perishable food, pet food, batteries, flashlights, plyboard, insurance policies. Put ID and bank info in a waterproof container, get a first aid kit, non-prescription and prescription meds, baby formula, diapers, personal hygiene items, and again, stash cash to purchase gas if you live in a hurricane-prone area and need to evacuate.
I would encourage you, if gas is high, don't try to leave and go to Birmingham, but find that safe place within the county outside of the surge zone, and that's where you make your plan to go to, whether it's friend, family, or relative, or it happens to be one of those storm shelters we open.
I would almost bet that some of the items you need in your hurricane supply kit won't be available. Gather supplies now. If you wait, they're almost sure to cost more if you can even find them. Keep your vehicle and generator fuel topped off. Try to have cash on hand. Most important is to have a plan to keep your family safe this hurricane season. Stocking up on hurricane supplies now means one less thing to worry about when a storm is headed our way. Kelly just mentioned some of the big ones. Other important items: a battery-powered radio that can receive weather alerts, ice for ice chests, a battery-operated fan, and chargers for all your electronic devices. Now, some more important things to do before a storm comes. Secure or store loose items from your yard. Bring your pets indoors, fill your vehicles with gas, and also get gas for your generator. You must also follow rules for safe generator use. The Consumer Product Safety Commission warns us about the risk of carbon monoxide poisoning from portable generators. Place them outside, about 20 feet away from your home, and keep them dry with a tarp or tent to avoid electrocution.
CO is an odorless, colorless gas that can kill you and your family in minutes. You never want to refuel your generator while it's running. Always turn it off, let it cool down.
Well, it's a good time to check batteries in your carbon monoxide detectors now, and those should be placed on every floor of your home. If the alarm sounds, don't ignore it. Call 911 immediately. It's not just us who will need supplies. Municipalities and power companies are also on the hunt for supplies and equipment. Many officials are worried with the supply chain issues, there may not be enough equipment to go around. NBC 15's Darwin Singleton has the story.
Mutual aid agreements between power companies and cooperatives all across the South is what brings the power back. We help them and they help us. A city utility like Fairhopes, for example, has enough equipment now, but may not have enough to share if a hurricane comes along.
You know, for me, it's the supplies, it's the wire, it's the poles, the things that we take for granted having or mutual aid crews could bring in. And right now they're in short supply. Nobody wants to, give up their supplies.
Power companies all across the South are dealing with supply issues right now when lead time on getting a new transformer goes from 3 months to a year, and a bucket truck now takes twice as long to acquire, 2 years versus 1.
Noticed that we needed to increase our inventory here at all of our warehouses.
Baldwin EMC is the largest power provider to the county, and it does not expect nor require other mutual aid partners to travel with equipment. Early on during the pandemic, vendors warned the cooperative of supply chain issues. Spokesperson Mark Ingram says early on a plan was set in place to buy as much equipment as possible from a larger pool of vendors.
That's when we took action. We then started contacting our vendors, and we told them we want to stock up on our transformers. We want to stock up on our pad mounted transformers, our lines, our poles.
The same way power companies have prepared, so should all of us. Now is the time.
The other thing is fuel. I mean, fuel has gotten to be so expensive for our vehicles and for mutual aid that will be traveling here that, that's ultimately a cost that we're going to have to absorb and that we'll be seeking reimbursement for. So, yeah, there are some concerns going into storm season.
Darwin Singleton, NBC 15 News.
Coming up, replacing what washes away. The ongoing efforts in Gulf Shores as storms continue to erode the shoreline year after year. And separating fact from fiction, I'll break down some of the biggest myths and misperceptions surrounding hurricanes.
You're watching NBC 15 STORMWATCH 2022, sponsored by Top Floor Brokerage. You're watching NBC 15 STORMWATCH 2022, sponsored by Top Floor Brokerage.
When we talk about staying ready for intense tropical weather, that includes having an evacuation plan. First, find out if you live in a hurricane evacuation zone. Then plan where you would go or who might be able to help you get there. And make sure you have an alternate route. Leave when you are ordered to do so. Don't wait. Plan for your pets. Don't just leave them behind. Over the years, storms have eroded away the shoreline, and that's causing some safety concerns along our local beaches. NBC 15 has learned a popular portion of the shoreline of Gulf Shores is so eroded it could slow down lifeguards responding to an emergency. NBC 15's Corey Pippin has that story.
The crowds are back on Alabama's sugar white sand beaches, and as a record number of visitors are expected to head to the coast this year, erosion on one portion is raising concern for Gulf Shores first responders, especially beach safety crews who respond to more than just distress swimmer calls.
We run medical calls, anything from cardiac arrest to jellyfish stings, so we are going up and down that beach a pretty good bit, and that's why this is such an important issue for us.
Gulf Shores Beach Safety Chief Joe Ethan Phillips says a roughly 4-block stretch of West Beach away from lifeguard towers is so narrow only a few dozen feet of sand remain. They're now asking beachgoers to leave 20 feet near the dunes open should they need to respond on ATV.
Anytime that you have to get off the beach or make a detour, that hampers time, and when you're going to a swimmer in distress, USLA states that it's a 2-minute window, so the faster we can get there to get to somebody, the better it's going to be.
The worry, officials say, is something will happen on the other side of that area, forcing first responders to drive onto the beach highway to find the nearest beach access.
The sand is right up against the edge of the buildings, and the water is very close to the sand, and there's just very little room.
Grant Brown with the city of Gulf Shores says recent storms, especially Hurricane Sally 2 years ago, caused the massive loss in sand.
And there's very much a lack of sand dunes, which is the primary support and protection for if we have a storm this season. So this is going to be a rough summer in this particular stretch where there isn't that sand dune to protect the property.
Corey Pippin, NBC 15 News.
Hurricane decals are now available for those living in the cities of Orange Beach and Gulf Shores, as well as the town of Dauphin Island. To get yours, visit your respective city or town hall. You may wonder, why do you need this sticker? Well, if there is substantial storm damage and only residents are allowed back into restricted areas, this will show officials you can return to your neighborhood or home at the appropriate time. Hurricane facts can get you through a hurricane season, but the myths and misperceptions, they can mess you up. Here are the top 5 myths and misperceptions that you really need to know about. Starting with number 5, hurricanes only strike at night. It might seem that way, and if you're an old timer, if you've been around since Hurricane Frederick, you look at this list and it's true that most of our hurricanes have actually struck at night. There are 11 hurricanes on that list. But look at the ones that struck at day, that's 7. It's not a big difference, it's a little more at night than we had during the day, but the thing you need to know, it's not science, it's just the way things turned out. Number 4, there's a hurricane myth about the windows on your house. Some people tape them up, mainly because they see other people doing it. What you need to know, it's a waste of time, it's a waste of tape. Taping up windows does nothing to protect the glass. If you want to protect the glass, you need to have plywood, you need to have boards, or you need to have shutters or impact glass. Number 3, what about this hurricane myth? The northeast quadrant is the worst. Well, it actually turns out that here on the central Gulf Coast, that is true most of the time, but not all the time. The northeast quadrant is where you tend to find a lot of tornadoes, the heaviest rain, and certainly the storm surge, but it's really the right side of the storm. And what that means is if you move to Tampa and a storm is moving eastward across the Gulf, the worst quadrant is going to be the southeast quadrant. On the other hand, if you move to Houston and a storm is moving westward in Houston, it's going to be the northwest quadrant. So it's really the right side of the storm is the worst side of the storm for the overall average impact. Okay, forecast code. the 5-day forecast cone. This is myth or misperception number 2. And the reason why is when you look at the cone, you see it stretching out over time, you see it getting bigger, and people think that it means the storm is getting bigger, the storm is getting more powerful. People also think that within that cone is the forecast area for impact. That's not the case. The forecast cone is only for the center of the storm, and the reason it gets bigger over time is because the uncertainty grows as to exactly where the center point will be. The problem is the center can be on the cone, but the impact can be outside the cone. And finally, myth number 1, those hurricane seasonal forecasts. We think about the Gulf of Mexico, right where we are. The problem is those seasonal forecasts, they're not for us. Not for us only. They're for the Gulf, the Caribbean, the entire Atlantic Ocean, and that's an area that is millions and millions of square miles. It's an area that is dozens of countries. Those hurricane seasonal forecasts, they're good if you live everywhere, but they don't help you if you only live in one spot. I'm NBC 15 Chief Meteorologist Alan Seals.
You're watching NBC 15 Stormwatch 2022, sponsored by Top Floor Brokerage. You're watching NBC 15 Stormwatch 2022, sponsored by Top Floor Brokerage.
Homeowners are always looking for ways to make their homes more resilient to storm damage in preparation for a hurricane season. NBC 15's meteorologist Kyle Hansen shows us what improvements can be made to our homes that can increase the chance of surviving a storm while reducing insurance premiums.
The Fortified Home program has been available to Alabamians since 2009, when Alabama recognized the Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety Standards. This program helps families protect their home by using key construction and roofing practices that can minimize damage done by winds up to 130 miles an hour and hail up to 2 inches in diameter. Of course, the price of upgrading to the standard can be expensive, with a typical cost running between $9,000 and $12,000 for the average size home. But it can save you money in the long run.
In Alabama, if you've received one of these fortified roofs on your home, you can receive a discount on the wind premium portion of your homeowner's insurance.
The Fortified standard goes beyond roofs. There are higher levels of fortification available for the rest of your home that can bring additional savings on premiums.
There's a silver level, which includes the roof level of fortification, but the silver also includes your openings. So your doors and windows, garage doors and things like that are included.
Homeowners can even go a step further with a gold level of fortification.
So that's where the foundation is actually tied, or your home is actually tied to the ground into the foundation. And typically that's only available for new construction, just because of the return on investment, the cost that you would incur to reach the goal level.
Under Alabama law, insurers are required to provide discounts for homes with a fortified designation, but the exact discount on premiums will vary from home to home. It may be a good idea to upgrade as the cost of insurance has risen.
Rates have gone up small to moderately in the last few years. We haven't seen any large rate increases. Our Department of Insurance caps those rate increases on homeowners at 35%.
Part of the reason rates have risen is the increase in the value of properties. It's important to update your insurance to make sure you have adequate coverage for your property and to do it before it's too late.
Typically, if you go in to buy insurance, as long as there's not a hurricane brewing in the coast at that time, then as soon as you pay that insurance, typically it's covered right then.
In addition to fortifying your home, Dusty Smith from the Alabama Department of Insurance also recommends shopping around with multiple insurance agencies to get the lowest rate. Kyle Hansen, NBC 15 News.
Still ahead, taking a toll, the steps you can take to manage severe weather anxiety.
You're watching NBC 15 StormWatch 2022, sponsored by Top Floor Brokerage. You're watching NBC 15 StormWatch 2022, sponsored by Top Floor Brokerage.
Storm stress is a very real thing many people deal with, and hurricane season can send that fear of storms into overdrive. As NBC 15's Lisa Labrignac reports, the threat of hurricanes and other storms can cause a lot of anxiety.
Severe weather raises a lot of stress for many of us along the Gulf Coast. So how do you cope with that stress? I spoke with the department chair of psychology at USA. Here's what he tells me.
Individuals that have gone through a major storm event and are still trying to cope with it, they may have some of the symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, just like you'd see in a combat veteran or a victim of abuse. A storm can be an abuser. It can be something that leaves you feeling really shaken.
Dr. Jack Shelley Tremblay says the best thing you can do is have a plan. We hear it all the time, but that's because it's so important. Make sure you and your family have a designated area and practice ahead of time. Here are some signs that may mean you or someone you love needs to talk to someone.
Kind of having some anxiety, feeling upset or anxious inside. You might see that they have an aversion to the TV. They might have an aversion to the news, kind of avoidance of some of those triggers,
which might cause you to act out.
If you see in one of your children that they're afraid about something on the news, like storms, then what you want to do is reassure them that they're safe, reassure them that it's normal to be scared and worried, and that everybody is scared and worried about these things.
In Mobile, Lisa Libraniak, NBC 15 News.
Having the right tools can relieve some of the stress. And you know the NBC 15 weather app is an important tool any time of the year. See radar showing rain and the motion of the rain with the option to display lightning. Along with a recent loop of radar history, the radar has a future mode with a projection a few hours ahead. It doesn't matter whether you are staying local or traveling. Click on any filled-in alert box to find out what the threat is. Set the NBC 15 weather app to notify you for alerts where you are or in some other location. Especially in hurricane season, move across the wide satellite view. It's indispensable for knowing the current status of tropical depressions, tropical storms, and hurricanes, along with the forecast cone. Of course, you will also see tropical weather watches and warnings on the map. For more information on how you and your family can stay safe this hurricane season, we have all of that for you on our website, mynbc15.com. Just click on the Hurricane Center tab. I'm Chief Meteorologist Alan Seals. Thanks for joining us.
NBC 15 Stormwatch 2022, sponsored by Top Floor Brokerage.